brand new trial started today on Court TV. A tragic story of a young boy, 9 years old, who disappeared 19 years ago. Could have been more than 19 years ago. We just don't know. Now his father, Dawan Ferguson, is being tried for the murder of little Christian. Chanley Painter has the story.
It's been almost 20 years since Christian Ferguson, a 9-year-old with special needs, disappeared without a trace. And now his father is facing charges for his death. Christian vanished in 2003 in the central west end of St. Louis. His body has never been found. Dawan Ferguson told police that he was taking Christian to the hospital after he began vomiting most of the night. Ferguson wrapped his son, who was only wearing a diaper, in a blue and red blanket and placed him in the back seat of his 1999 maroon Ford Expedition. He then drove about 2 miles from his home and stopped to use a payphone to call the hospital when someone jumped into his running SUV and left with Christian in the car.
Christian Ferguson has never been recovered. But the evidence that you will see this week will show to you that Christian Ferguson was never missing, and that 911 call placed by the defendant was not true. It was all a cover-up by the defendant to cover up the murder of his own child.
The vehicle was found 15 miles north of St. Louis in Ferguson, but Christian was not inside. A massive search was conducted, but Christian has not been seen since.
I had to turn over custody to the father, and so when he came in, I left out, and that was the last time I saw Christian.
Were you able to say goodbye or give him a kiss?
I was able to, but I just didn't. I didn't feel good about saying goodbye because I thought that was the last time I get a chance to see him.
Police considered Ferguson the prime suspect in his son's death, but did not have enough evidence to arrest him until 2019.
Dawan Ferguson did not kill his son. When Christian got sick, Dawan did what he normally did, which was to take Christian to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, Dawan realized he should have called ahead. He typically called ahead when he would take Christian to the hospital, so the hospital staff could get the room ready for Christian's arrival.
He now stands trial for first-degree murder and child abuse in the disappearance of his son.
Okay, so today, day one, Chanley Painter on the ground in Missouri and has the latest for us tonight.
The long-awaited trial of Dawan Ferguson is underway here in St. Louis County, Missouri. A full courtroom for day one as the many family and friends of victim Christian Ferguson packed the rows of the gallery wearing special green, yellow, and purple ribbons honoring his memory. And the day started with opening statements. The prosecutor told the jury that Ferguson had to kill his disabled son to cover up his severely deteriorating condition, telling the jury they will hear from Christian's sibling, who once went by Connor and now goes by Lynn. At the time of Christian's disappearance in June 2003, Lynn shared a bedroom with the victim.
On the day of June 10th, Lynn notices that Christian's feeding tube is not in his stomach.
The prosecution also told the jury about a couple of witnesses who will testify about how the defendant Ferguson confessed to his part in his son's death. But public defender Jemiah Still told the jury that Ferguson had nothing to do with his son's disappearance, maintaining his story that while at a payphone, a thief stole his SUV with Christian inside. She also made clear that none of the medical professionals working with Christian reported abuse or neglect.
The nurses who worked with Christian and the doctors who worked with him as well will tell you that Dawan was a loving, caring father.
The prosecution's case in chief rolled through 6 witnesses on day one, setting an emotional tone with the mother of Christian Ferguson, called First, who's been fighting and advocating for justice for nearly 20 years. Theda Person testified about who her son was and the conditions he suffered from, and the final time she saw her son in March 2003.
I had to turn over custody to the father, and so when he came in, I left out, and that was the last time I saw Christian.
The state also called 2 in-home nurses who helped care for Christian, a dietitian, a medical representative, but it was nurse Tredell Overby who really made an impact inside the courtroom. The jury of 9 women and 7 men exhibited looks of disgust as the nurse described what she called an appalling state that Christian lived in.
It smelled of urine, and I'm quite sure the door was always closed because when you open the door, that's when the smell hit you. They were so potent.
It was when Nurse Overby said that there were no bed sheets, that there was an audible gasp from the gallery. And when the nurse left the witness stand in the courtroom, she broke down into tears in the hallway outside of the courtroom. And what our cameras didn't see was the facility dog, Levi, from the prosecutor's office, comforting Miss Overby and other witnesses and family members throughout the day. And coming up, we're going to hear from investigators who worked this case for years, along with other experts before the prosecution's case wraps up. We could even start to hear from the defense. I'll send it back to you.
Let's bring back in our think tank Al Wunsch, Darnell, Crosland, Jennifer Brandt, all with us tonight. Darnell, this is not an easy case for prosecutors, but you've got a very, very sympathetic victim, a missing child here. I think that's a big part of the case, and special needs, you know how difficult, we heard how difficult it was to take care of him and some of the conditions here. Despite the fact it's a cold case, I think there are some inherent advantages that the prosecution will have here.
Al got it again. This is the sad thing about these cases. It's that someone's right and someone's wrong. When you listen to the prosecution opening argument, they make a very compelling argument that this child was killed. You listen to the defense, the public defender, she says that all the nurses will testify as to how this father was a loving father. So it's either the prosecution is right or the defense is right. And these cases are so sad because we don't know. But what we do know is that this kid suffered from a disease condition that needed a lot of attention. And what we do know is that if there was no bed sheets and things were in disarray at the house, either this father or this family had mental health issues themselves. They were poor beyond ability to take care of this child. And that's the sad thing about, a lot of these conditions that we see in America. These parents are not able to take care of their children. I have DCF cases all the time. I have one now with a kid that was found with 15 broken ribs in different stages of repair. So that's why they know that this was an ongoing thing, because there was different stages of repair. And that case is ongoing. And it's very sad because both parents say they don't know who did it. So with this, I think it comes down to whether there was an intent to kill. If this child had a disease and he was sick and he suffered from that and then he died and the father tried to bury the child, maybe like a Casey Anthony kind of a situation, maybe that's what we're looking at. But I don't think we have enough to say that it was intent to kill here. And that's why I think, although the prosecution may have a strong case that something went wrong, I'm not sure whether they're going to find a cold case and find intent to kill.
Jennifer Brandt, the other part of the equation in all of this is that his parents were split, and dad was the one who had the custody. And to me, yes, that's one of those, well, if you're going to have custody and you're split and you don't want to deal with the child, then is there a way, if you are a parent awarded custody and you don't feel like you can take care of the child or don't want to take care of the child for whatever reason, that you could go to the court and say, hey, mom should be taking care of this child?
Right. I mean, there was a reason why dad got custody to begin with. We don't know, but you heard the mom testify. She was, sad when she said goodbye to the child, but the dad had a right to take on this custody, and it sounded like he was the primary custodian at the time. So maybe mom was not able to take care of the child, and dad, maybe he was the more fit parent to do so at the time. But if he was, found himself, sounded like this child needed a lot of care and had a lot of care, had people coming in to help out. But if he was not able to take care of the child, that's when you have relatives that step in, a grandparent, an aunt, another family member, someone else. I believe he had a wife. It sounds like there was family around this child. There are also resources, from the state. Somebody should have been alerted to the fact that he needed help. we don't know what happened, but if he found himself in a situation where he just was not able to care for this child, then he probably should have reached out and tried to get some more help. And I don't think that's easy, but certainly better than letting this child live in the conditions that were described. And, you know, I agree with Darnell. Who knows what ultimately happened? The sad thing is that we don't even know where this child is or what happened to him, never found the body. That's what's really, you know, horrible about this whole situation.
Al, we really don't have any time, but it's more like a one-word answer here, just because we're up against the clock. What 0 to 10, 10 being the most plausible? How plausible is his story about, oh yeah, the child was in the backseat, somebody stole the car, and then the child is never seen or heard from again? 0 to 10, how plausible?
At a 4, but in that neighborhood, who knows? But just remember, Vin, 2 words: Michelle Ledzinski, which was a case, a New Jersey case, and similar type of situation. That there was a 20-year gap in trying to convict her. They convicted her. The New Jersey Supreme Court reversed.
Yep.
So they couldn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he intended to kill or she intended to kill her son. I don't think they're going to be able to do it in this case.
Yeah, it's a tough case, I think, but I think the built-in emotions are obviously on the side of the prosecution because of who the victim is in all this.